Before every white transit and every Amazon van, Britain moved on trucks that nobody photographed, nobody celebrated, and almost nobody saved. 10 of them are on this list. One of them helped win a world war. One was killed by the very company that supplied its engine. And one is so rare, fewer than 10 are thought to exist anywhere on Earth. If you think you know British truck history, you might want to sit down for this one. Like and subscribe, because these machines deserve to be remembered. Number 10. Bedford TK. Start with one that older British viewers will recognise immediately. The Bedford TK. Rolling out of Luton from 1960 onto every farm track, building site and delivery yard across the country for over 2 decades. Its cab-forward design was genuinely clever. Driver positioned right above the front axle, brilliant visibility, tight turning in narrow market town streets. Under the hood, a range of engines from petrol to diesel, all built to keep working long after lesser vehicles had quit. But here is the sad irony of the Bedford TK. It was so endlessly useful that almost none were ever spared, driven until they rattled apart, scrapped without ceremony. Nobody thought to preserve them because nobody imagined they would one day be gone. Today, a clean, original TK pickup is genuinely rare, a workhorse that worked itself out of existence. And if you think that is sad, wait until you hear what happened to number 7. Number 9. Land Rover Series 1 pickup. Most people know the Series 1 as a chunky 4x4, the vehicle that opened up farms and estates across post-war Britain. But almost nobody knows the pickup version existed at all. Launched in 1948 out of Solihull, designed by Maurice Wilks, the Series 1 pickup stripped everything back. Flat steel cargo bed behind the cab, a 1.6-litre petrol engine up front, and 4-wheel drive that laughed at British mud. These were working vehicles in the truest sense. They ploughed through Pennine winters, hauled feed across Yorkshire dales, and survived conditions that finished most cars within a season. Nobody polished them, nobody pampered them. And that is exactly why a genuine Series 1 pickup today commands extraordinary money at auction, because almost none of them survived the work they were built to do. The next one on this list barely survived the decade it was born in, and for a very different reason. Number 8. Morris Commercial C-Type. A truck built by a name every British family knows, but in a form almost none of them have ever seen. The Morris Commercial C-Type, produced between 1933 and 1939 in Birmingham, was one of Britain's most quietly dependable pre-war light pickups. 4-cylinder side-valve engine, payload of up to 1 ton, a body that asked only one thing: to keep going. It served market traders, small manufacturers, and local tradesmen who needed something reliable without any fuss. Then the war came. Civilian vehicles across Britain were commandeered, melted down, or abandoned as the country redirected everything it had. The C-Type was not considered special enough to save. Today, surviving examples are genuine pre-war treasures. Quiet reminders of an ordinary Britain that was about to change forever. But the next truck on this list did not just survive the war, it went straight into the middle of it. Number 7. Austin K2. Here is the one that went to war and barely came back. The Austin K2, built by the Austin Motor Company in Longbridge from 1939, is most famous in its ambulance form, the vehicle that carried the wounded across North Africa and through the fields of Normandy. But the pickup variant of this chassis is something far rarer, far less talked about. Powered by a straight-six petrol engine, built for punishment in conditions that tested every bolt and every weld made back in Birmingham. After the war, surplus K2s flooded back into civilian life, converted, cannibalized for parts, eventually scrapped. The pickup versions especially are extraordinarily difficult to find today. Owning one is less like owning a vehicle and more like holding a piece of evidence, proof that ordinary British engineering once quietly helped shape the outcome of a world war. Now, number 6 is a truck almost nobody remembers, And there is a reason for that. Number 6. Comma Q4. Ask most classic truck enthusiasts about the Comma Q4, and you will get a long pause. That pause tells you everything. Built by Comma Cars, part of the Roots Group out of Luton, the Q4 served through the Second World War as a medium-duty workhorse that kept supply lines moving when supply lines were the difference between victory and defeat. Powered by a Humber 6-cylinder petrol engine, payload of around 4 tons, flat panels, a divided windscreen, and a cab design that said plainly, "This is a tool, not a statement." After the war, military surplus trucks were sold off, converted, broken up, and forgotten. Comma itself quietly faded through the 1970s, taking its history with it. Today, finding a Q4 in pickup form is an extraordinary rarity, a truck from a brand most of Britain has already forgotten. But number 5 on this list carries a name that will genuinely surprise you. Number 5. Dodge Q. Here is one that stops people mid-conversation. The Dodge Q. Yes, an American name, but built right here in Britain, at a plant in Kew in southwest London through the 1950s and into the 1960s. Dodge's British operation built trucks shaped specifically for British roads and British buyers. Slightly different proportions to the American originals, body panels and cab details that reflected local conditions and local tastes. Many ran on Perkins diesel engines, practical, straightforward, and entirely in keeping with what British fleet buyers wanted. When Chrysler reorganized its European operations, the Q plant closed. Production ended. Very few Dodge Q pickups survive today. American DNA, British hands. Built for streets their American cousins never saw. That combination makes them genuinely unique. But the truck coming up at number 4 was not just rare, it was almost never made at all, thanks to one of the most extraordinary betrayals in British truck history. Number 4. Tempo Matador. Now this one comes with a story. The Tempo Matador was built between 1949 and 1951, a front-wheel drive truck powered by a Volkswagen engine, practical and ahead of its time. And then Volkswagen did something remarkable. Seeing the Matador's success, they decided to build their own truck instead, and simply stopped supplying engines to Tempo. Just like that. The vehicle that helped prove the concept was cut off by the very company powering it. Tempo scrambled, switched to a British Austin engine, and carried on. But the damage was done. Production of the original Matador ended after just 1,362 units, and today, fewer than 10 are thought to exist anywhere in the world. 10. Out of 1,362. If that is not the definition of rare, nothing is. But even that extraordinary story is not the most dramatic one on this list. Number 3 will change the way you think about British trucks entirely. Number 3. AEC Matador. Something heavier now. The AEC Matador, built by the Associated Equipment Company in Southall, West London, from 1938, one of the most formidable trucks Britain ever produced. A 7.7-litre diesel engine, around 95 horsepower. Originally designed to tow heavy field artillery for the British Army across terrain that had no right to be driven on at all. After the war, Matadors were converted into recovery trucks, timber haulers, and heavy-duty flatbed pickups for industries that needed something that simply would not stop. The engine was almost unkillable. But that was the problem. Because they never broke down, they were never retired, just worked harder and harder until eventually there was nothing left to work. Finding a Matador in preserved condition today is genuinely rare. The ones that survive are fiercely protected by collectors who understand that this truck did not just carry loads, it helped carry Britain through its darkest years. Now, number 2 built something far quieter, but no less remarkable. Number 2, Leyland Beaver. The Leyland Beaver, even saying the name feels substantial. Built by Leyland Motors out of Lancashire from the 1940s through to the 1960s, the kind of truck that made Britain's post-war reconstruction physically possible. A six-cylinder Leyland diesel. Build quality that was genuinely world-class for its era. Flatbed and pickup variants of the Beaver chassis moved through quarries, construction yards, and heavy industrial sites without drama or failure, hauling the steel and stone that rebuilt a bombed-out country from the ground up. Leyland eventually became British Leyland, and that story is long and painful. But the original Beaver represents something purer. A Lancashire-built machine from an era when British heavy engineering was something the world looked at with genuine admiration. When one comes up for auction now, it goes fast, and it goes for serious money. But our number one? It is so obscure, even dedicated classic truck collectors go their entire lives without ever seeing one in the metal. Number 1. Guy Wolf. And here it is, the most obscure truck on this entire list. The Guy Wolf, built by Guy Motors out of Wolverhampton in the West Midlands, a name that barely registers even among serious classic truck enthusiasts. Guy Motors was always the smaller player. Not Bedford's scale, not Leyland's reach, but they built trucks with real character and careful engineering, and the Wolf, a light truck produced from the 1930s into the 1950s, served exactly the kind of small British business that needed something nimble, reliable, and completely unpretentious. A 4-cylinder petrol engine, modest load capacity, a design that never tried to be anything more than what it was. People drove them, wore them out, and moved on without a second thought. Guy Motors wound down truck production in the 1970s, and with it went almost everything: the records, the photographs, the machines themselves. Today, finding a Guy Wolf is genuinely extraordinary. Most collectors spend an entire lifetime in this hobby and never see one. And that, more than anything, is what makes it worth remembering. A truck so ordinary in its time, it became extraordinary by simply surviving. 10 trucks, almost forgotten. Some helped build Britain, one helped defend it, and most of them disappeared not because they failed, but because they did their job so completely nobody thought to look back. If this brought something back, or showed you something you never knew existed, like the video, subscribe, and share your own memories in the comments. We will see you in the next